Ticker symbol VOO, or the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, is one of the most popular ETFs across the entire market for good reason. This ETF not only tracks the most high-quality index across the entire world, arguably, being the S&P 500, but also has returned significant returns, 549% return since inception. But when it comes to VOO, what about those investors that don't have all that much money to invest into it? Because to be completely honest, even to be able to afford one single share of VOO as of right now, you're going to need to shell out over $500 for a single share. Well, in this video, we're going to go through and I'm going to show you exactly what just $1 per day, yes, just $1 per day, long-term invested into something like VOO, what that could return investors long-term, and spoiler alert, it's a lot more than you would expect, I promise you. So if you're a dividend growth investor looking to invest in a high quality, maybe the most high quality ETFs long-term, make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into this one. Real quick, for those that haven't already, make sure to go to the first link in my description and grab my new dividend investing ebook, where I share exactly how I went from $0 invested to now earning over $6,000 on a monthly basis and over $1 million invested in the markets. Along with the ebook, you're also going to receive my custom dividend tracker, where you can track your dividend progress on an ongoing basis and reach your dividend investing goals. So make sure to grab yourself a copy of my dividend investing ebook and the new dividend tracker today. It's the first link in my description. Now, just for some background for those of you guys that might not know exactly what the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF is, the product summary here on the Vanguard website is pretty simple. It says invest in stocks in the S&P 500 index, representing 500 of the largest US companies. And like I said in the intro, the S&P 500, in my opinion, along with a lot of other investors' opinion, are 500 of the best companies more or less in the world. Now, the goal is to closely track the index's return, which is considered a gauge of the overall US stock return. Now, with something like VOO, you are as an investor going to receive dividends every single quarter, which we're going to go over in detail here in a second. But for the most part, an ETF like this has the potential to grow a lot in ETF price long term, which is exactly what it's done so far. Now, another very important aspect of any ETF is, of course, expense ratio, or how much it's going to be to actually hold on to the ETF, which again is why a lot of investors really stick to index investing, because besides everything else, it's very, very cheap to do so. Now, looking at VOO's chart long term, it doesn't really get much prettier than this. This ETF started in around 2010 and traded at around $100. Now, as I film this video, well over $500 per share, which is an incredible increase just over the last, say, 14 or so years. Now, just year to date, VOO is up as far as price return goes, 17.8%, and over the last 1 year time frame, 25.57%. It's really hard to beat this ETF. You can do your own stock picking or even pick other ETFs, but let's be real here, long term, it's very, very tough to beat the S&P. Now, VOO tracks the S&P 500, which in my opinion is one of the best breakdowns of all time. It's mostly technology, but again, not too much technology. It's 31%, then a ton of financials, healthcare, consumer cyclical. It's a very well balanced overall fund with a little bit of everything in it. But the fund does skew to the majority of some of the names that have performed amazingly over the last several years. By buying into VOO, you're getting exposure to Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, Amazon, Meta, Alphabet, etc., etc. Now, I did say that VOO does pay a dividend, and this is very important, especially if you're watching one of my videos. You know that I'm a huge fan of stocks and ETFs that do pay dividends long term. And that's because for me personally, I'm trying to build a portfolio that's not only going to move up in price over time, but maybe in the next, say, 1, 3, 5, 10 years, I want to actually use my dividends to live off. But VOO specifically, as of right now, where it's trading, is only offering around a 1.3% trailing 12-month dividend yield. And of course, this dividend would be much higher, but this ETF just keeps going up in price. Now, as far as dividend growth goes, there is some pretty significant dividend growth, which is good, because who doesn't want to get paid more and more cash flow long term? As far as VOO goes, dividend growth rate in the last 10 years is 7.25%, which across the market, we have seen ETFs and stocks that pay more and more dividends a little bit quicker. But honestly, 7% is going to not only keep up with inflation, but probably surpass it. And honestly, with VOO, you're probably going to make more than enough money as far as price return goes long term, at least if you were to ask me. Now, lastly, before we go over the actual math and I share with you exactly what just $1 invested into a powerhouse dividend growth style ETF like VOO would leave an investor later on in the future, just to look at some more returns, these are outstanding. A $10,000 investment over the last 13.79 years invested into VOO would have turned $10,000 into $63.4 thousand, or an average annual total return of 14.33%. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again, this is very hard to beat. This is why the S&P 500 is sort of the benchmark. Everyone and their uncle thinks that they can beat the S&P 500 through stock picking, but let's be real here, it's very difficult to do. But now to get right into what you guys came here for, I promised you that just $1 per day invested into VOO would shock you as far as how much returns investors could see later on in life. So right here with the dividend calculator, we typed in some numbers, and of course you can type in your own numbers. You can set up different theoretical situations because of course it's all these are. We don't know exactly what's going to happen in the future, but with a $10,000 starting principal and just $365 per year in annual contribution. That means that $1 per day after that first initial investment is going to be invested into something like VOO, and you are going to see just how much money this is going to turn into. Now VOO's initial annual dividend yield is just 1.29%. The expected annual amount increase, we went with the last 10 years, 7.25%. Of course, like I said, this could go up or down. Who knows? Expected annual share price appreciation, this could be 8%, this could be 20%. We don't know what's going to happen, but let's just go with 10%. 30 years invested, dividends are paid quarterly and are going to be reinvested. Let's see what we get. So year number one, this portfolio is at $10,000, earning $129 in dividends. And of course, that $365, $1 per day annual contribution is going to take place. So by year number two, we're at $11,400. Now skipping right ahead because nobody has all day, 10 years down the road, $30,700 with $316 in dividends. By 20 years down the road, with just $1 invested per day, this portfolio is already up above $91,000 with $732. Now all the way at the bottom, and of course these numbers can change. This is all just estimated going off of our numbers. A $10,000 portfolio with just $1 invested per day into VOO could theoretically turn into $257,000 or even more, which is insane considering the small amount of money invested every single year. Now I'm hoping that most of you guys watching this video can invest at least a little bit more than just $1 per day into your long-term dividend growth portfolio, but this just proves once again that there's really no excuse for almost anyone out there, no matter what your circumstances are, to at least invest $1 per day into a powerhouse dividend growth monster like VOO or like a lot other ETFs across the entire market. Because although if you invest very, very slowly, let's say $1 per day on average, it's going to take a long time until the money turns into something massive. It just once again proves the point that every dollar counts, especially if you're investing into an asset that has a tendency to pay you dividends and also increase an ETF price substantially over time. Now, just for fun, if we were to add a zero to the annual contribution, $36.50 per year, just to see how much this changes things, by 30 years down the road, that $250,000 portfolio would now be worth somewhere around $814,000. So obviously, the more you add to your portfolio consistently, it's most likely going to make a massive impact on your long-term balance, etc. But once again, this video's purpose is just to remind everyone, just to show you what investing consistently looks like long-term. So now that we went over the VOO ETF or the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, and I share with you exactly what just $1 per day would look like in an investor's portfolio long into the future, I lastly, most importantly, have a question for you guys down below. Which ETF, as far as a long-term buy and hold forever position, are you currently buying consistently for your portfolio? My portfolio currently has a ton of SCHD in it. That's what I've been buying currently. I want to hear what you guys are buying. Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.